Good Red Friday afternoon, and welcome to another shortened edition of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you until just 4 o'clock today. We are off early again for high school basketball at the Thunderbird Classic at Shawnee Heights High School. 3 games coming your way. Brendan, Dan, and Larry Latimer, all 3 of us on the call of the action coming up this afternoon between 4 and 9 o'clock. Should be a lot of fun. We'll get to that coming up a little bit later on, and obviously we will be out of here pretty quickly and get ready for the high school hoops action. But we, of course, have plenty on the AFC Championship, front with the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Cincinnati Bengals Sunday afternoon at GEHA Field at Arrowhead, or maybe Burrowhead Stadium. I'm online all the time and still somehow missed that bit from this week that the Bengals are now calling it Burrowhead. And then Chris Jones brought it up today as he walked off the podium. So clearly the Chiefs know about it, and I certainly don't. So we will get you our keys to the game coming up here in just a matter of moments. We will also get a little bit of a look ahead to what else is going on this weekend, what else is going on in the sports world today after we get you our keys to the game because, well, we're off early, so no headlines, no other key segments to get to. So we'll just kind of take a look around the world of sports heading into the sports weekend. And we will also talk to Matt Derrick from ChiefsDigest.com, our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs insider. He will join us at his usual time at 3:35 this afternoon to get his final thoughts on the AFC Championship game. We, of course, want your thoughts as well. Hit us up on YouTube. Sports on 580 WIBW is the channel. And the Big O Tires text line, 785-272-9429, as always, is the text line number. So without further ado, since we've got to get a lot into the next 55 minutes or so, let's get going with our Chiefs keys to the game as the Chiefs take on the Cincinnati Bengals at home at Arrowhead Stadium coming up again Sunday afternoon. It will be the second of the 2 games. It'll be on CBS, so get ready for Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, and Tracy Wolfson on the broadcast on TV, and of course the Chiefs radio network crew on the radio broadcast as well. I will go first because I think for me, key number 1 is extremely simple and obvious. You got to protect the quarterback in this game. That means everybody, that incredible interior part of the line, Andrew Wiley on the right side, Orlando Brown on the left side, and that's the name to keep an eye on because he's been the most up and down, at least based on expectations throughout the year for this Chiefs offensive line. It sounds like Mahomes is going to be mostly fine. Pete Sweeney from Arrowhead Pride actually put on Twitter on Friday early in the afternoon that, hey, look, from what I can tell from the portion of practice that media has been able to attend this week, from the pocket, he looks completely fine. Mahomes looks entirely, justified that they would be confident in him playing all of that. If there's anything that might be limited, it might be his ability on the run, whether that's precautionary or not. That might be where the issues are. Okay, well, if he's going to be at his best, in all likelihood, out of the pocket, keep that pocket clean. Don't force him into situations that might be a little more adversarial against a defense that is going to have their ears pinned back, so to speak. Trey Hendrickson is going to be on his best. Sam Hubbard, same thing. DJ Reader in the middle, all those guys, they are going to be prepared for this matchup, so do not let them through. It seems obvious, it seems simple, but sometimes it is that basic. Don't put Patrick Mahomes in a situation where he has to play Superman when, again, to use the analogy here, he's got someone pulling on his cape, right? Do not put him in those situations.
Yeah, and it's kind of a legacy game for Orlando Brown Jr., isn't it? Like if he gets a big bag this offseason, he's going to be able to point to this game as the reason why, right? And if he doesn't get the contract he was hoping for, it might end up being he's pointing to this game as a reason why. He is going to be so vital to those efforts. And I thought he and the rest of the offensive line, their sense of urgency peaked when Mahomes came back in the game after he got hurt against Jacksonville, and they were really good the rest of the game. I thought early on there was some pressure, particularly, again, coming off of that blind side from Mahomes, Orlando Brown Jr. side. There wasn't hardly any of that in the second half. I thought that offensive line picked their guy up. To extend your analogy of superheroes, I know this is a different one, but that scene in the Spider-Man movie where they're carrying him off the subway.
Careful, he's a hero.
Yes, yeah, that's kind of what that offensive line needs to do. No question about it. And Orlando Brown is going to be a big part of that. You want to be from Easy Money University. You want to be paid like the best left tackle in the league. 60 minutes of playing like it. the AFC Championship game would certainly go a long way.
That was unbelievably funny the first time we heard that on Sunday Night Football this year. Easy Money University. Oh, Orlando. Maybe not the time.
It's a great line. Like, it's one of those lines that's really good. It's like, yeah. Man, like Ball So Hard University with Terrell Suggs used to use that.
Oh, yeah. You got to perform, though.
Yes.
That's the thing. You got to back it up.
Yeah, you got to make. He hasn't made easy money this year. He's making that money look a little difficult, in fact. But no, he's 60 minutes away from maybe having that easy money after all. And it kind of goes to my first key to this game for Sunday, and that is the Chiefs have to be the aggressors. The Chiefs have to be on the front foot. I think the Bengals have smacked them in the mouth a little bit in previous meetings, and I certainly think that was the case in Cincinnati earlier this year, particularly with the way the Bengals were able to run the ball up front. You have to believe, given A, the success they had doing it against the Bills last week, and B, the fact that they will once again have that same offensive line group. Zach Taylor has ruled out left tackle Jonah Williams and right guard Alex Kappa for this game, so it will once again be 3 reserves, because Lyle Collins, the right tackle, has been out for a while. 3 reserves up front for Cincinnati. And they are going to try, I would imagine, and do something very similar to what they did last week. Try and get those guys moving forward and get them some confidence in the ground game and blocking for Joe Mixon and Samaj P. Ryan, and have Joe Burrow getting the ball out really quick. So on defense, how can the Chiefs be aggressors? Well, number one, they got to win up front. This is a matchup that's made for Chris Jones. This is a matchup that's made for Frank Clark. Those two guys talk the talk, and for the most part, they walk the walk. Certainly Frank Clark has walked the walk in the playoffs as well as any pass rusher to ever play the game. Chris Jones is still waiting for that first sack. This is the matchup that has burned in his mind for almost 365 days. You know that for a fact. So I predict those guys are going to be motivated. Carlos Dunlap against his former team is going to be fired up. George Karlaftis is playing better now than he was in the first meeting. And the other thing, too, you go back to that first meeting, it was a lot of zone coverage, and Joe Burrow just picked it apart. Burrow sat in the pocket and just ripped it to smithereens. He had terrific numbers against the zone. Against Buffalo, he had really good numbers against the zone. You can't sit back and let Joe Burrow have time and just surgically move the ball down the field. You have to make him get the ball out quick, and you have to be aggressive with his star wide receivers. I think there will be more compunction for Steve Spagnuolo as a defensive coordinator to allow for that on the perimeter in this meeting than there was the first time around. Remember, Trent McDuffie was only a handful of games into his NFL career when they first met. Jalen Watson was not a factor. It was Joshua Williams who was playing those cornerback 3 snaps in the first meeting. But the way the McDuffie and Watson and L'Jarius Sneed have played down the stretch should give Spagnuolo confidence to be able to play some physical press man coverage, which is what he likes to do anyway, right? The zone stuff was kind of against his tendencies in that first meeting. And I think a lot of it was not knowing how those rookie cornerbacks are going to respond to the challenge of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. Well, not only did they hold up okay in that first meeting, they're playing even better down the stretch. So I think you're going to see more of that press man, that willingness to bring an extra rusher, and that desire to get the ball out quick. Make Joe Burrow get the ball out to the perimeter. And then, of course, what didn't happen in the first meeting, what the Chiefs all know has to happen better, they got to tackle. They got to bring the wood. They have to be the aggressor on defense. We talk about on offense with their offensive line, and I think the ground game can be a factor for the Chiefs in this one as well, but defensively is where it means the most. They have got to be the aggressors. They have got to take the fight to Joe Burrow and company.
We didn't plan for this to be so in alignment, our keys to the game, but you pretty much got into the specifics of what my number 2 key is, and that is that the Chiefs have to win defensively on first and second down. Last week against the Bills, the Bengals backup offensive line, they did great. They deserve credit for how well they played in Buffalo against that Bills front, because all you can do is play the folks that are in front of you, right? Like, you don't get to pick how hard the opponents are going to be. For what the matchup they had, they were great. That Bills defensive front that played yesterday, so Von Miller, obviously out of the picture. Do you know how many guys for the Bills are in the top 40 in the NFL in pass rush win rate?
I would say none of them.
None of them. Not a single top 40 pass rusher, at least in terms of one-on-one matchups, in that entire Bills front. There are some decent dudes. Like Boogie Basham's a nice player. Ed Oliver's a nice player. Those guys haven't dominated the pass rush, and in bad weather, the Bengals, which, generally that slows down pass rush, they were able to hold up all, super well. So again, credit to them for playing well. This is a different kind of matchup. It's going to be different kinds of weather. It's going to be different kinds of players, like Chris Jones, who it has been burning in his brain. He's been seething over the fact that he did not bring down Joe Burrow 2 or 3 times last year in the AFC Championship game. We talk about legacy game for Orlando Brown. No one is suddenly going to say Chris Jones isn't one of the best defensive linemen, if not a top 2 interior defensive lineman in the NFL because of one game, good or bad. But at some point, hey, you've been in the league since 2016. Your team's been to the playoffs every one of those years. You've been the best player on that defense every one of those years. You can't get to the quarterback, or if you do, you can't bring him down. So this game is going to mean a lot in terms of, I think, retroactive perception of the player Chris Jones has been, rightfully or wrongfully. So how do we get to those situations where Frank Clark can be in pass rush mode? We can get to playoff Frank Clark, where Chris Jones can get fierce up front, rush the passer, which he is better at doing than stopping the run, for example, where he's fine but not great. You win on first and second down. We've talked about it all week. First meeting between these two teams, Samaje Perine ripped up this Chiefs defense. Joe Mixon, the better running back of the two who didn't play in that game, well, he is now healthy for this one. You can't allow that to happen. So first down runs, you've got to stop them. Second and long runs. Everybody, really every team in the NFL, and it drives me nuts, but especially from the tree that Zach Taylor is from, they love the second and long run. Absolutely love that. McVay, LaFleur, the other LaFleur when he was in New York, and now in LA as of today, those dudes all love to run the ball on second and long. Okay, second down and 10 after an incomplete pass. Chiefs, you got to stop the run. Do not let them get to 3rd and 5, 3rd and 4, because then you can get the ball out quickly, quick slant Tyler Boyd out of the slot, quick out to Jamar Chase, yak for an extra 15 yards at the sideline. You have to avoid those situations. Then you get to 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, more situations where that offensive line has to hold up longer against Jones, against Karlaftis, against Clark, all these dudes up front. Blitzes, we know Spags is going to throw some creative blitzes in the mix here as well. Those are the situations you have to win in. Put the Bengals behind the sticks, get them off schedule, because that is going to make things more difficult for their offensive line. And in turn, that will make things more difficult for Joe Burrow.
So my second key to this game has to do with the Chiefs offense. And it goes back to an old saying our friend Jake LeBon is fond of using. You can't go broke making a profit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think for the Chiefs, the lesson there is take the profit, because the Bengals run more drop 8 or rush 3 coverages than any team in the league. Famously, that was how they slowed down the Chiefs in the second half of last year's AFC Championship game. They didn't do it a ton against the Chiefs in the second meeting, but it was still effective when they did it. Mahomes got really good playing against it this year. He really did learn the benefits of taking the profit.
Mm-hmm.
Mentally, that's difficult in a big game, right? The big game, everybody wants to make the big play. And Patrick Mahomes has been guilty of this at times, not necessarily to his detriment, though I felt at times it was detrimental in last year's AFC Championship game. This year, don't go broke, take the profit. If it's a swing pass to the back, McKinnon, Pacheco, and you get 3 or 4 yards on 2nd and 8, well, fine. At least you're in a better third down situation, and you've got more things to choose from. You've got some more liberties you can take with your playbook. Take the check down on first down if you've got to. Heck, if you've got one-on-one out on the perimeter on a 3rd and 8, see if Pacheco running hard or McKinnon running hard can maybe make Mike Hilton or Cam Taylor-Britt or somebody like that, Von Bell, miss out on the perimeter. See if you can do that, because that's a better play for Mahomes than scrambling around on half a good ankle and trying something deep down the field into tight zone coverage. Take the things that the defense is willing to give. And I think in a lot of cases, it's going to be the run. Last year there was lots of frustration coming out of the AFC Championship game. If they're going to drop 8 all half, why not just run the ball? Why not just run against 2 high safety? Take what the defense is giving you. The Chiefs don't have a great run game, but I think it is a decent run game, and I think it is good enough to take advantage. If the plan for the Bengals is to drop 8 and hem Mahomes into the pocket, figuring that's probably where he wants to be anyway with a high ankle sprain, take the profit. Go get 4, 5, 6 yards at a clip with Pacheco, with McKinnon, with whoever it might be carrying the football. I think those situations, getting into more manageable third downs, sustaining longer drives for the Chiefs offense, can help them for the course of 4 quarters wear out that Bengal D.
And to that last point specifically about wearing guys out, Isaiah Pacheco is not the greatest running back in the world. He's not a top 10 running back in the NFL, something like that. But you know what he is? He's physical. He runs hard. Those dudes in the middle, that interior line that we've talked about so much over the last couple of weeks, Joe Tooney, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, you know what those guys are? Big, physical, mean. Those are the road graders of the offensive line. Run behind those guys. Beat up on Hubbard, on Reeder, on those guys up front for Cincinnati. Wear them down a little bit. I think when you get to later parts of the game where maybe you need to pass a little bit more, and it would be nice to have a little extra time in the pocket, given, the potential situations of the game, you want those guys to be worn down. You don't want them to still be as fresh as can be in that sort of situation. So, I mean, this feels like why you draft Pacheco, right? Because you need a guy who can be the hammer, and you want the defensive lineman to be the nail. Go let him be the hammer. That sounds like the perfect fit in this kind of game for me. Who's your big chief?
Man, there are a lot of guys who could really, really be important in this matchup. And we talked about a couple of them. We've talked about Chris Jones and Orlando Brown. I'm going to go with Frank Clark. I'm going to go with playoff Shark here. I think that he's going to have a good matchup, whichever side of the offensive line he lines up at, whether he's going up against a backup left tackle or a backup right tackle. He's going to have some opportunities to win some one-on-ones. And on early downs, he has to do a good job in the run game, which typically he does. Make sure that teams can't bounce the run to the outside. He's really effective at setting that edge. So I think Frank Clark will be heard from in this game. I think he's going to add to his career playoff sack total. I think this is a matchup that is really, really important for him.
I'm going to go on the offensive side. My initial thought was Travis Kelce because, he's kind of the security blanket, along with just being a phenomenal player. He's, okay, I need someone to be open. I need someone who's going to make a catch, get some yak, whatever. Go to Travis Kelce. I'm going to lean in a different direction, though, and this came up earlier in the week. You brought up Juju Smith-Schuster and wanting to see more from him, wanting to see a different kind of production from him. I'm going to go with Juju as well. This Cincinnati defense knows what the Chiefs want to do. They know what the plan is going to be. At some point when we get to this part of the season, every team's got film. And when you've played a team as many times recently as the Chiefs and Bengals have played each other, these teams know what they're going to do. They know the core concepts of what each opposing offense or defense wants to do. The Bengals know that they want to get Travis Kelce the ball. And if Mahomes is not 100%, and as good as he's looked this week in practice, he is not going to be truly at 100%. Obviously, he's going to want to get the ball to Travis Kelce because that is the most reliable piece on that offense. So get that second option in the passing game, whether it's out of the slot, whether it is outbreaking routes. You haven't done a lot with Juju vertically this season, but maybe this is the opportunity to pull out something that's been buried deep in the playbook this year. He is the kind of guy I'm looking for. Travis Kelce is both A, going to get a ton of attention from the defense, but B, subsequently is also going to get his. Like, teams don't shut down Travis Kelce all that often. He is one dud a year, maybe. You've got to have a second option in this game. And I don't know, fourth quarter, close game, 3rd down and 7, and you've got Juju lined up on Eli Apple, you better be able to go make that play. You absolutely have to go make that play. And Mitch Holthus will go crazy if he does end up making that play. So Juju is the guy. He's got to be a reliable second option. He's good enough to be a first option, but in this game, knowing how important Kelce's going to be in general, I think you've got to get Juju or at least someone else involved offensively in the passing game. Picks for the game. The spread has moved again. Chiefs -1.5. It has zigzagged all over the place on both sides of the aisle here. I'm going to take the Chiefs, and I'm going to give it 30-27 Kansas City. That would be an over. That's more than I originally wanted to go with, but I'll go 30-27. So Chiefs win, Chiefs cover, over the total. The pass rush, I think, is going to be a totally different beast for the Bengals to deal with this week. Also, this is from Jesse Newell at the Star in his game prediction. In the last 3 games, the Bengals have beaten the Chiefs. The Chiefs in the fourth quarter of all of them had a win probability of 75% or better and just could not finish the deal. Statistically speaking, probability speaking more than anything, indicates at some point there's going to be regression to the mean that favors the Chiefs. I'll say it happens here, even with Mahomes on a bum ankle, 30-27 Kansas City.
If you'd asked me Sunday night, I think I would have picked the Bengals. If you'd asked me Tuesday night, I think I was probably leaning toward the Bengals. They've got a tremendous collection of skilled talent. Joe Burrow is playing as well as any quarterback has ever played the position. They are red hot winners of 10 in a row. They are insanely confident. Their defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo, has a way of making the best quarterbacks play ordinary, and that includes Patrick Mahomes, who, again, has a bit of a ding there to that ankle that's going to keep him from being the maximum Mahomes. Or will it? Because what we've seen over the course of this year is Mahomes learn how to play with constraints, learn how to play when he doesn't have the threat over the top, learn how to play when the plays don't have forever to develop, learn how to play when he's hemmed into the pocket by zone coverages or spies. And he's still the best in the league at doing all that stuff. You know, the long passes and the connections to Tyreek Hill and the scrambling plays. That's the stuff that makes him an all-time great. But the stuff that makes a quarterback great, the bare bones stuff, the ability to get to the peak of your drop, get the ball out in a hurry, find the open man, and keep moving the ball down the field and scoring points. Mahomes is the best at all that stuff too. At home, can this team lose a fourth time in a row to a Cincinnati team that doesn't have a significant talent advantage over the Chiefs? I just can't see it. I can't see it happening to Mahomes and Reed again. I've talked myself all the way back around to it. The Chiefs, 26-21.
26-21. So that would be, is it still at 47.5?
I believe it is.
Ooh, just a half a point on the under. That's originally what I wanted to do. I think the defenses are going to come up big, but how do you avoid picking a lot of points in a game with Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes? I can't do it. I cannot bring myself to say, no, we're going to have a limited number of points in this game. Let us know your predictions for Chiefs-Bengals this weekend. Hit us up in the YouTube comments. Sports on 580 WIBW is the YouTube channel. And, of course, let us know on the Big O Tires text line, 785-272-9429. Coming up later on this hour, Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com is going to join us for our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs Insider. Right now, though, we're going to take a quick break. Dan's got a quick look around some of the headlines from around the world of sports on this shortened edition of 580 Sports Talk.
Bottom of the hour, right on the nose. It is 3:30 here on 580 Sports Talk, which means we are halfway through today's edition of the program. Again, high school basketball, night number 2 of the Thunderbird Classic at Shawnee Heights High School, coming your way just before 4 o'clock. We'll throw it out to the Bird Cage. Brendan Wersinski, Larry Latimer standing by for a triple header of high school basketball tonight. Getting some predictions in for Sunday. We've got a very confident Chiefs fan from the 785 who's picking the Chiefs 49-6. We've got another from the 785 predicting a shootout. Chiefs 42-38. I'm kind of the mind that both teams are going to be really physical and try and establish some physicality with the run. I don't think there are going to be a lot of possessions in this game. Remember the first meeting between these two teams this season, the Chiefs only had 8 possessions. It was the fewest possessions they had in any game this season. So I think this will be a low possession game, which is why I don't think it's going to be high scoring. But I agree with both texters that at the end of the night, it's going to be Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and friends hoisting the Lamar Hunt Trophy. The injury report is out for Sunday, and there is a new and notable name on it for the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's Travis Kelce, questionable for Sunday with a back injury, although Kelce did participate in full in practice today. So I wouldn't spend any time between now and Sunday hyperventilating about Kelce's availability, but something clearly flared up after not being listed on the injury report or the participation report Wednesday, Thursday. He is listed today with a back injury and does have a designation for Sunday, and that is questionable. Also questionable for Sunday, McCole Hardman, which we kind of figured. He was limited all week with his ongoing pelvis injury. Justin Watson, also questionable. He did not practice today, came down with an illness, it appears. So he is questionable for Sunday as well. There were 2 other players for the Chiefs added to the participation report today, but neither has an injury designation. Nick Bolton and Juju Smith-Schuster were both limited, but again, no injury designation, meaning they'll be good to go. It was kind of a maintenance day, I think you would say, for both players. Willie Gay, Jerick McKinnon, and Patrick Mahomes, all full participants for a third straight day with no injury designation. For the Bengals, they have ruled out left tackle Jonah Williams and right guard Alex Kappa. Neither player practiced all week with injury, and they will miss Sunday's game, meaning, once again, it'll be 3 backups on the line for the Bengals if you include Akeem Adeniji, who's been starting for a little bit after Lael Collins at right tackle was injured. Everybody else good to go. No other injury designations for the Bengals. DJ Reader, Joe Bacci, Trey Flowers, Sam Hubbard, Ted Karras, and Hayden Hurst, all full participants. Hurst was one that was interesting yesterday. He was added to the injury report after not being on the list on Wednesday. He was limited yesterday with a calf injury, but he participated in full today. So that is your injury report for Championship Sunday. Again, I'm not too concerned about Travis Kelce being on the list. If he had been limited today and were listed as questionable, I might have been. But since he was able to practice in full today, I think he's going to be just fine. I think it would take something like an act of God to keep Travis Kelce off the field for an AFC Championship game. So, again, you'd rather him not be on the list at all, but I don't believe it's going to be something that is going to impact his ability to play the way he normally plays coming up on Sunday afternoon. Again, Brendan and I both picking the Chiefs. I wasn't sure I was going to pick the Chiefs, but I can't see Mahomes and Reid losing 4 straight times to the same team and back-to-back AFC Championship games at home to the same team. I do not see it. I have trouble seeing it. I think this is the game where the one tipping point play after the last 3 meetings, it's gone the Bengals' way. This is the meeting where it goes the Chiefs' way, and the Chiefs win a 1-score game, 26-21. Again, is my prediction. We will see what Matt Derrick from ChiefsDigest.com. Deef's Digest? That's a spoonerism. ChiefsDigest.com. Matt Derrick is our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs insider, and he joins us to talk AFC Championship next here on 580 Sports Talk.
challenge.
Mr. Official, let me ask you something. How can 6 of you miss a play like that?
His name is Matt. Are you ready?
My name is Matt.
Let's go.
Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com, gracious enough to join us every Friday for our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs Insider. Again, you find Matt's work at ChiefsDigest.com. Find him on Twitter at Matt Derrick. And Matt, we'll start with, I guess, the breaking news with Travis Kelce listed as questionable for Sunday, despite being a full practice participant. Is that perhaps an indication that maybe he suffered an injury at the end of practice, or is there any real concern here?
I mean, it always could be. Being a full participant is a little unusual because normally it would be if it was an injury suffered during practice. At any point, they would list him as a limited participant. Full, leads me to believe that it was probably something unrelated to practice. I can tell you, Travis Kelce was scheduled to talk to us today. And at the end of the podium operations, we were told by the public relations staff that they just missed their window with Travis. So be your own guest here. But I would normally say that when a player practices in a full on Friday and gets added to the injury report, usually it's not practice related. There was something else involved.
Very interesting indeed. Will you say you still have a high degree of confidence that he'll play on Sunday?
I would think so. I mean, at this point, not hearing that there's anything serious. It could very well have been maybe he wakes up with a sore back. Who knows? But at this point, haven't heard anything serious. And like I said, normally when you see a full participation, that's usually a good sign for a player even if they are listed as questionable.
Speaking of that media availability, there were lots of players who talked to you guys today out there in Kansas City. Chris Jones and Frank Clark were among them, and both of them seem very in tune to the confidence emanating from the Cincinnati camp, and confidence might be an understatement. They are well aware that there are folks in Cincinnati who've taken to calling the site of Sunday's AFC Championship game Burrowhead Stadium. And I think for the most part, they're handling it fairly well. I mean, the Chiefs aren't engaging in the war of words. It's a lot of, well, yeah, they get to say what they want. They've beaten us the last 3 times. I think Frank Clark almost said that verbatim in his media availability today. But do you sense maybe there's a little irritation and a little extra motivation coming from the Chiefs because the Bengals have come into this one kind of feeling themselves a little bit?
Yeah, I think you can. I don't think you're going out on a limb, reading between the lines and parsing some statements to think that the Chiefs are drawing some motivation from all of this. I mean, clearly they are. They're listening to it all. And when Chris Jones drops Burrowhead, I think 3 times during that press conference today, I think that's a pretty good indication. And you're right. I mean, the Chiefs, everybody this week has tried to go out of their way to talk any trash. Especially after it really kind of backfired on them when Justin Reed fired his mouth off back during the regular season. And I think even, a lot's been made of Willie Gay, with a statement yesterday when he said nothing stood out about the Bengals offense. I don't even think that was Willie Gay trying to throw trash or throw shade. I think that was just Willie Gay trying to avoid saying anything, and he probably wishes he'd said everything the Bengals offense stands out. But I think that was Willie just, answering a question that he thought was handled in the right way without talking into trash, and it comes out the wrong way. So that's what the Chiefs are trying to avoid. But it's amazing to me that both teams seem to have to try and find some slight to create some motivation for this. I mean, they're both teams seem to be going out of their way trying to find a reason to be fired up about this game. And I don't know if you need anything more than the fact that the AFC Championship game to be fired up.
Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com is joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. He is our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs insider. We talk to him every week at this time on the program. Matt, we went from holding our collective breath on Sunday night in regards to what Patrick Mahomes' status for this game would be to, I think now there's a feeling, a majority feeling that he might be fairly close to being able to do most of the things that he does on a regular basis. What is your sense of what Mahomes' capacity is going to be when he takes the field on Sunday?
I think I really truly get the sense that, he's going to have a pretty close to a full range of what he can do. I mean, they're obviously doing everything that they can to manage his pain, but the indications we're also getting is that, just isn't as severe as some other high ankle sprains. I mean, clearly the one that Harrison Butker had this year was a really, really bad one. And the Chiefs never tell us whether it's grade 1, 2, or 3. But I think at this point, if you took an assumption that Mahomes' was a lower grade, I think you'd probably be pretty close to guessing right there. So one, you're dealing with an injury that maybe isn't as severe as some others could be, as this could be. And two, we've seen this guy do this before. I mean, and he's told us that, the turf toe injury that he had going into the Super Bowl in 2020 against the Buccaneers, that hurt worse than this had. That was more pain. That was more uncomfortable. And if you remember, I mean, he ran for his life in that game. He scrambled for like almost 500 yards. That's pretty good indication about how he feels right now. So I'm sure there's going to be some hesitation. He'll find out on Sunday just how much of the full range of motion that he's got. He's bound to be limited in some ways. I'm sure that he doesn't want to take off running as much. He may not be as fast. His turns may not be as sharp as they usually are. But I've got no doubt that the arm is going to be there, the throws are going to be there, and most importantly, the attitude is going to be there. And that's what usually separates this guy from the rest of the pack anyway.
Regarding Mahomes and the Chiefs offense on Sunday, what is the key to their success? What are they going to have to do specifically in this matchup against the Bengals, against a team that has played Mahomes as well as any team in the league, a defensive coordinator in Lou Anarumo who has a knack for making great quarterbacks play average, and the numbers bear that out. What must the Chiefs do to make sure that offensively they're giving themselves the best chance to move the ball and put up points?
Yeah, and it's a really good question. And to me, there's so many, to a degree, fallacies about these three games that these teams have played that I think have developed. One's that the Bengals own the Chiefs. Well, these are three-point games, and two of them have been in Cincinnati. I don't know if you can really make a case that that's ownership. The Chiefs have moved the football. I mean, they've scored points on the Bengals. That's not been an issue. The issue's been finishing the games. Chiefs have had 6 drives in the fourth quarter or overtime, and they've had 2 turnovers on those drives. They had a missed field goal. They haven't scored any touchdowns in the fourth quarter or overtime. To me, it's all about finishing. That's what needs to happen. The Bengals have made good adjustments, and usually late in the game, no matter what, the theme has been in all 3 of these games is that they eventually just start trying to go after Mahomes with 3 or 4 and drop everybody in coverage. And that's when Mahomes is just going to have to kind of take what's giving. He's going to have to make adjustments in game because that the Bengals are going to do that. I mean, they've done it every single time. It's just the Chiefs have to make that adjustment back. They have to be able to counter what the Bengals are going to do to them at the end because the Bengals do it every single time.
Our guest is Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. He is our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs insider, joining us as he does every Friday here on 580 Sports Talk to preview Sunday's AFC Championship game. Matt, let's shift gears to the defensive side of the ball. I used a wrong word earlier. I'm going to correct myself. I said compunction. I meant compulsion of Steve Spagnuolo on defense, maybe being more compelled to let his corners try their hand at some press man and not rely so much on zone defense. For one, Burrow had his way with the Chiefs zone, especially over the middle in the first meeting this year, and also had his way with the Bills when they played zone defense. But for two, this is, though still a young defensive backfield, particularly at the cornerback spot, it's more experienced now than it was then because Jalen Watson has taken over. Trent McDuffie has played more football. Is it a better matchup now for the Chiefs to try and play some press man and a little more cover two instead of the zone looks that really got them beat in the first meeting?
I think there is because I certainly I felt like in the first matchup that, the Chiefs were really trying to protect their corners a little bit, their young guys, in that game. And it worked to a degree, but I think you're right. I mean, there's a reason why the Chiefs went out and drafted these guys. It was because they knew that in order to really counter the Bengals and every team in the league now who is trying to find these big, fast receivers that the Bengals have in bunches, that you got to have the same thing on the other side. You got to have long, lean corners or have a toolsy guy like Trent McDuffie who maybe height is the only thing that he lacks, but he can do everything else. These guys are built for this. They're built for press man coverage. They're built to be aggressive. And I think they've proven that they can handle it. Yeah, it's a risk, but I think you have to trust these guys. I think you really have to let them rip. I mean, at this point, the cliche is that none of these guys are rookies anymore, and it's true to a certain extent. But I think now's the time to find out. I mean, there's still ways to protect the young guys. If you want to have L'Jarius Sneed follow around Jamar Chase and make everybody else's life a little bit easier, you can. But I think it's time to find out what you got. And, and part of, once again, a big part of the piece is going to be getting to Joe Burrow, because if you're able to beat that defensive line and the front four can get some pressure, that can do more for those young guys in the secondary than anything else.
If we are talking about a Chiefs victory late Sunday night and into Monday and getting ready for another Chiefs Super Bowl appearance, and you can't answer Patrick Mahomes to this question because he's the obvious answer, but which player or which maybe position group or couple of players are we talking about and saying they decisively won their matchup, they were the difference?
I think it's pretty easy for me. I mean, it's Chris Jones and the guys up front. I mean, now the Chiefs could win this game without Chris Jones getting his first postseason sack, but I don't think there's any doubt they need to have some squiggly numbers under that sack total, because if they get 3 or 4 sacks on Joe Burrow, then I know 2 things are true. One, that's indicative of the fact that the Bengals are having to throw the football, so they're not running the ball especially well. They're throwing the ball a lot. They are probably behind. And if they're getting pressure, they're getting Burrow down 3 or 4 times, it means they're getting home. They're getting a lot of pressure. So that to me is the one number. I mean, if we look back on Sunday and you tell me that the Bengals, that Joe Burrow only went down 1 time or 0, I will assume that the Chiefs lost. If they get him down 3, 4 times or more, I will say that the Chiefs won. And I think it's going to be because Chris Jones was wrecking things on the inside to make one-on-one matchups easier for everybody else, or Chris Jones himself gets home and gets some work done. But I think that's where it's going to be.
All right, Matt, we're going to hold you to a prediction here. Brendan's got the Chiefs. I also took the Chiefs. It took me all week to come around to picking the Chiefs, but I just don't see them losing 4 times in a row to the same opponent. Not Patrick Mahomes, not Andy Reid, not this proud Chiefs team. I think they get it done on Sunday. What say you? How do you think this one unfolds?
I mean, I do feel like I have been Charlie Brown and Lucy with the football, because I've taken the Chiefs to win the 3 previous matchups. and I told myself after the last one, you can't do it again. You have to take the Bengals the next time around. But I just see too much that tells me that the Chiefs are going to get this done. I mean, Mahomes is Mahomes. I think this is going to be one of these games where he just drags this team with him. I think he's going to have the help around him because this is a motivated team. Yeah, it's a little bit of a leap of faith in making this. I mean, it's more of a gut reaction than brain, because the Bengals, for whatever reason, have had their success against this team. But I think the Chiefs get it done. I feel terrible about where the score will end up, because I think there's going to be a little bit more defense in this game. Maybe it'll be higher scoring than I think. But I'm sticking with the 3-point margin. Chiefs 24, Bengals 21.
No, I'm with you. I think it'll be a lower scoring game than people are expecting to. I said 26-21, so you and I are on the same wavelength there. Matt Derrick will cover it all for ChiefsDigest.com. He is our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs insider here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt, always a pleasure. Enjoy the game, hopefully more than last year's, and we'll talk to you next week.
Same to you, Dan. Take care, everybody.
That is Matt Derrick. We got one more break to get to. We'll come back with a very short final word before high school basketball on 580 Sports Talk. A lightning quick, prediction heavy final word for you on this shortened edition of 580 Sports Talk. Again, I like the Chiefs Sunday night, 26-21. But before that, I like Kansas State to get back on the winning track with a win over Florida at Bramlage Coliseum on Saturday. I like KU to snap their 3-game losing streak and beat John Calipari and Kentucky on the road. They're not going to lose 4 in a row under Bill Self. That's not happening, just like the Chiefs aren't losing 4 in a row to the same team. And I'm going with the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. Are getting the Kelsey Bowl, I think. I think the Eagles are going to beat the 49ers in the NFC game, all as a prelude to the Chiefs, hopefully bringing home the Lamar Hunt Trophy. Hope you enjoy the game and your weekend coverage from the Thunderbird Classic. Our 580 Preps high school basketball coverage is coming your way next. For Brendan Dworzinski, I'm Dan Lucero. This has been 580 Sports Talk. Enjoy your weekend, guys.